This month of August, we've had some stellar video games release and even more exciting ones to release soon at the time of writing this. We just got not one, but two amazing sequels to beloved franchises that haven't seen a new main entry in their series in years. Pikmin 4 and Baldur's Gate 3 are absolutely phenomenal games. Baldur's Gate is one I've especially been sinking a lot of my time into, so much so it put off the making of this video a bit more than I'd hoped. The point is, there are a lot of great titles coming out right now, but I've found one for you that you may have not heard of. An absolutely smooth 3D platformer Metroidvania that came out recently. One that has kind of gotten lost in the sea of recent releases. A game called Pseudo Regalia. Pseudo Regalia is a game that started out as a game jam that eventually released as a full-fledged game on Steam. It's a game that's heavily stylized like the Nintendo 64 and PS1 platformer classics, and it absolutely nails the vibe. It has such a dreamy atmosphere, making it feel like some lost PS1 game someone would post about finding on the internet. The game is a platformer, but it's not level-based and doesn't have a hub world. As I said, it's a Metroidvania. You play as Sybil, some goat, cat, bunny girl, whose name I do not feel safe searching in Google Images while anyone else is in the room. You're trapped in a place called Castle Sansa, which seems to be some sort of dream realm. Your goal is to explore and find 5 great keys to unlock some great door. You'll find new and different abilities allowing you to access new areas to further explore, along with fighting some enemies. The combat really isn't the main focus of the game, it's the platforming. Not to say that the combat is bad, it's just not nearly as complex or fleshed out compared to the platforming. For the combat, you have this sword or club-like thing you can swing around to do your basic 3-hit combo. You do have a power meter, which fills up with each hit on an enemy. What's cool is when you reach power level 2, it increases your attack range, and power level 3 increases your attack power. However, you can also spend power levels to heal yourself. So it encourages you to play aggressive and has a system where you can sacrifice power to heal or keep it to remain stronger. It's a nice touch. Some movement abilities can be incorporated into combat, like the plunge ability you can use on enemies. There were only like 2 bosses in the game, and not much enemy variety, but like I said, where this game really shines is the platforming and movement. The movement in this game is so smooth. The devs absolutely nailed it. Moves and abilities flow together so well. Each new movement option adds its own new flair to your toolkit and way to get around. But because of how they flow and interact with each other, it creates this whole wealth of ways to move. That is a sign of a good platformer, when separate moves flow with each other. Your basic movement abilities are a slide, a wall run, a kick that you can bounce off walls or propel yourself a little forward with, a ground pound, and of course the standard jump. There are a couple more, but those are the major ones. It may not sound like a lot, but these few basic moves can be strung together in so many different ways to pull off some smooth and crazy shit. You don't have many moves at the start, so it is a little bit of a slow start, but once you start finding more moves, exploring and platforming really picks up. What I loved is when you get a new ability, you get a brief excerpt that tells you how it works. then leaves you on your own to figure it out and master it. There's no sidekick or sign that pops up saying,
"Hey, look, listen, hello."
It just lets you figure it out. It gives you a problem, a platforming challenge, and the tools, abilities you need to solve it. You figure out and learn how to use your options and how they incorporate and interact with your other moves. I fucked around a lot finding things I had no idea I could even pull off. Even if a platformer has movement as smooth as my father's hairless head, there needs to be actually well-designed platform challenges and good level design to accompany it. In Pseudo Regalia, it definitely succeeds at that. The castle is such a wonderful place to explore, with lots of varying areas that interconnect with each other to form one cohesive place. The design of the castle and its many platforming challenges is one that suggests to the player how to platform, but doesn't force them to make it the only way. There's kind of a set order of places to go and keys to get, but the design and moveset allow a lot of liberty and fucking around. Like in this section of the game here, when you're trying to get into the Twilight Theater, you're supposed to use the wall run ability with the bubble dashes to get in. However, if you use the momentum from the bubble dash and time it with well-placed wall kicks, you can make it across the gap before you even acquire the wall running ability. Your moveset is one that rewards those who can master it and use it to its fullest potential. And the castle definitely pushes you to do just that. There's something in Pseudo Regalia that may be a turnoff for some people, but if you're like me, then it's a feature you'll actually enjoy. There's no map. If I'm playing a game with a central focus of exploration, and I have a map or mini-map in the corner of my screen, I feel like that takes a bit of my focus out of the world and exploring, as I find myself looking at the map most often to figure out where I am or where to go, rather than focusing on and taking in the world itself to navigate myself. I feel like I pay more attention to the level layouts and landmarks if there's no map to rely on. Plus, it often makes finding shortcuts and connections between areas more rewarding, because I found it by paying attention to the world around me rather than seeing that connection on a map. I make my own mental map and feel more tied to the actual place. Granted, for this to work, the level layouts and world has to be well designed to have cohesion. For me, Pseudo Regalia pulled this off very well. Each major area of the castle stands out while feeling cohesive to the whole castle. I'd be able to remember like, oh yeah, this leads to the Empty Bailey, which connects to the Twilight Theater, which can bring me back to the main hall of the castle. The castle isn't so large that it feels so massive that it's easy to get lost in, but not so small that it feels like there's not much to explore. Throughout the game, you will, like in general Metroidvania fashion, have to do some backtracking. However, it isn't really an issue here, because when you revisit an area, you often have new moves in your toolkit. With these new moves, you can find quicker ways to get around and new ways to approach and get around platforming challenges. I would find myself traversing old areas in new ways. A good way to make backtracking fun is to either change the areas you revisit to get the fresh feeling or seeing of how the familiar changed, or, like in Pseudo Regalia's case, change how the player can get through and interact with the area. Pseudo Regalia is just a game so many people are sleeping on right now. I get the hubbub of Baldur's Gate 3. Trust me, I get it.
Oh, gods, I want to ride you till you see stars.
but this game is damn worth your time and money if you like 3D platformers of old. I don't want to hear the excuse that you don't have the time or money for it. It's like a 4 to 6 hour game and only $6 on Steam, which is a steal if you ask me. The atmosphere alone is what sold me on the game, and I gotta say it was well worth my time and money. The game was made by just a couple people, and they deserve so much credit for their amazing work. I will always be astonished and amazed at what indie devs are able to make, and will never stop sucking the metaphorical fallacies of these games.